as you can imagine, the AACR Journal staff performed technical checks of manuscripts prior to accepting them for publication. So this is done to ensure that every manuscript satisfies our editorial policies, including requirements on research ethics and reporting, validation, and availability of key materials and data. So this takes considerable time and effort, however, and some things are difficult for staff to check manually. And at that time, we also had just started suggesting that authors add RRIDs to their manuscript to uniquely identify the resources they used in their work. But unfortunately, the uptake was really low. So when we saw the SciScore tool, we thought that it could help authors address some of these editorial policy requirements and prompt them to improve the rigor and reproducibility of the manuscript on their own early in the editorial process, and hopefully even before peer review. And if successful, this should help support the peer review process, lower the burden on staff performing these checks later in the editorial process, and improve the quality and speed of the publication process overall. So, that was really what our hopes were going into this, and why we wanted to pilot with SciScore and see how that tool would work and help us achieve these goals. Well, I think the biggest early challenge was simply integrating the SciScore tool with our manuscript submission system in an appropriate way, because all these submission systems are different. You really want them to work smoothly and not provide hurdles for authors, but you want them to do what you want them to do. And in this case, importantly, we wanted authors to see the SciScore report results during the submission process, so that they could immediately revise their methods section to address limitations identified by the tool. And this required not only generating the report and getting the results in front of the author before they completed their submission, but then also generating a new SciScore report so that both we and the authors could see the impact of any changes the authors made to the methods section in response to the report. So in the end, we came up with what we think was a reliable system that allows the authors to submit multiple revisions of the methods section of their paper, see the impact of each successive change they make, if they make one, and then make any further revisions as appropriate. And it's been really nice to see people engage with the system in that way. Well, I'd say rigor and reproducibility are extremely important to the AACR, and I don't think this has changed at all over the past 5 years, to be honest. We've always been really focused on rigor and reproducibility. But what has changed is the availability and performance of resources, tools, and services that we can use to improve the rigor and reproducibility of what we publish. And our early efforts with macros, RRIDs, and SciScore have now expanded to encompass other tools that address other areas of rigor and reproducibility in published research. And as technological developments encourage research studies to expand in both number and complexity, it's becoming increasingly important for publishers such as ourselves to use complementary technology to evaluate the work submitted to us and improve the quality of the published research outputs. So those challenges are just continuing to increase for publishers, I think. Absolutely. I think RIDs are as important for reporting the resources used in research as ORCIDs are for identifying the people performing the research. In both cases, we're still in the early stages of adopting these identifiers. And I think there's enormous untapped potential for them both to improve the functioning of the research enterprise. And I'm really interested in seeing where we can go with this and how much we can get out of using these tools. I think really the proudest achievement was seeing authors really engage with the SciScore results and observing the uptake in the use of RIDs without us having to really impose this on authors by making it a requirement. So our approach really has been to try and educate authors on the value of these initiatives and make it easy for them to adopt these tools rather than forcing these changes on them. And I'm really happy so far with how well this has worked. Well, I think the usage of tools and resources like SciScore and RIDs to help improve research integrity will continue to increase. At the same time, we're mindful that technology is also going to make it easier for relatively small numbers of bad actors to pollute both the scientific literature and databases with bad or fabricated research. And publishers will not be able to address this on their own. I think it's important that institutions, funders, and upstream stakeholders will have to take a more proactive role in addressing the challenge of research integrity at the source. The publishers can't do it all by ourselves, and we need everybody else to step up as well.